Have you ever found yourself stumbling over the same rock? Not once, but over and over again. It's like you're stuck in an endless cycle, repeating actions and choices that have proven to be ineffective, but for some reason, they still seem like the best option at the time. You try something new, but in the end, you find yourself in exactly the same place, frustrated and unsure why. This pattern isn't just common, it's almost universal. All of us, at some point, have felt like we're going around in circles, unable to move forward. And it's not because we're incapable or unlucky. The truth is that we often don't recognize the rocks in our path. Or worse, we ignore what they represent. Today we're going to talk about these rocks, about the cycles that hold us back, and most importantly, about how to break them so that you can finally break out of this cycle and achieve what you truly want in life. Why do we repeat the same mistakes? First of all, we need to understand why we repeat the same mistakes. It's not just a matter of inattention or carelessness. It's something much deeper, rooted in the way our brains work. Our brains are complex organs, but they have one simple trait. They love familiarity. Your brain seeks out familiar patterns because they consume less energy. This mechanism was essential for the survival of our ancestors, who needed to repeat safe actions to avoid danger. But in the modern world, this tendency can become a hindrance. When we get used to patterns of behavior, even negative ones, we get stuck in them. That's why, even though we know something is bad for us, we keep doing it. And to make matters worse, cognitive justification comes into play. Our brain finds ways to rationalize these choices. It tells you that procrastinating at work is acceptable because you perform better under pressure, or that staying in a toxic relationship is okay because everyone has problems. This silent self-sabotage keeps you right where you are, preventing you from facing the real question: what needs to change? Joachim's story, an example of overcoming. To illustrate this idea, I want to share the story of Joachim, a skilled carpenter who lived in a small fishing village. Joachim was known for creating beautiful and resistant furniture, pieces that lasted generations. But he had one striking characteristic: an unshakable stubbornness. He was so confident in his talent that he rarely listened to advice, even from those who had more experience in specific situations. One day, a wealthy merchant visited the village looking for someone to build a boat capable of weathering the storms of the open sea. Joachim, with his usual confidence, accepted the challenge without thinking twice. He ignored the advice of experienced fishermen, who warned him about the importance of reinforcing the hull to withstand the pressure of the salt water and the violent waves. "I know what I'm doing," he said, convinced that his talent was enough. After weeks of hard work, Joachim proudly handed over the boat. The merchant set sail at dawn, but when he encountered his first storm, the boat gave out. The hull split in half, and the merchant and his crew nearly lost their lives. Fortunately, they were rescued, but the boat was destroyed. When the merchant returned, furious, he demanded that Joachim take responsibility for the damages. Embarrassed, Joachim did something he had never done before. He stopped to listen. He listened to the fisherman explain where he had gone wrong, detailing how to reinforce the hull's joints and treat the wood to resist salt water and humidity. Determined to restore his reputation, Joachim started from scratch, applying each teaching carefully. He not only corrected his mistakes, but incorporated new techniques that he had previously ignored. Months later, he presented the merchant with a new boat, a robust, reliable vessel ready to face the most treacherous seas. When the merchant tested the boat by sailing the same stretch where he had failed before, he returned to port safely. Impressed by Joachim's humility and skill, he not only paid for the new boat, but recommended it widely. Joachim became a wiser carpenter, known not only for his furniture and boats, but also for his ability to turn mistakes into lessons. Joachim's story is a powerful reminder that learning and growth often come from our willingness to admit mistakes and listen. Failure doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something greater if we're open to learning. Break the cycle. Stoic philosophy in practice. The Stoics, such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, were masters at addressing the challenges of the human mind. They believed that the greatest obstacle to any person's progress lies not in the external world, but within themselves. Our beliefs, habits, and reactions are the real stumbling blocks. For them, the secret to personal growth lay in the ability to observe our thoughts and actions with brutal honesty and to take responsibility for the choices we make. One of the central teachings of Stoic philosophy is the power of conscious reflection. Before making any decision, the Stoics recommended a pause. Imagine yourself in a game of chess. Each move requires thinking about the consequences before acting. In life, we often take impulsive actions without considering the impact. This reflective pause is not just a moment of hesitation, but an opportunity to analyze: am I repeating old patterns? Am I being guided by habit or by conscious choice? Another essential Stoic principle is recognizing harmful habits. How many times have you found yourself acting on autopilot, making decisions based on what you've always done, even though you know they don't work? These patterns are often so ingrained in us that we barely even realize they exist. This is why the Stoics emphasized the importance of regular self-analysis, a process of questioning our daily actions and their true purpose. And of course, discipline is the foundation of all of this. But discipline, in the Stoic sense, is not something rigid or punitive. Rather, it is a constant practice of aligning your actions with your values and goals. Small daily actions, such as taking a few minutes to reflect on the mistakes of the day or visualizing the challenges you may face tomorrow, are powerful tools for building resilience. It is discipline that keeps you on track, even when circumstances try to derail you. What the Stoics teach us is that we don't have to be victims of our circumstances or hostages to our past mistakes. Each day is a new opportunity to look within, adjust our thoughts and actions, and follow a path that leads to true growth. After all, as Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, you have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The comfort zone trap. Ah, the comfort zone. That place where everything seems safe, predictable, and controlled. It's like a refuge where we take refuge when the world outside seems chaotic. But have you ever stopped to think that this zone, so cozy at first glance, can actually be your worst enemy? The comfort zone is not just a place to rest. It's an invisible prison that limits our growth and prevents us from reaching our true potential. Imagine yourself driving a car in neutral. The engine is running. You can hear the roar. You feel the comfort of being behind the wheel. But you're not going anywhere. This is the illusion of the comfort zone, the feeling that everything is fine, when in reality you're stuck. The longer you stay in this state, the harder it is to realize that you're stuck. And worse, you may even start to justify this inertia by telling yourself that things are fine as they are, or that it's not time to change. However, the reality is that nothing significant happens within this zone. The biggest breakthroughs, whether in your career, relationships, or personal growth, come when you venture beyond the familiar. Stepping outside your comfort zone is uncomfortable, sure. You'll face doubts, fears, and even failures. But it's precisely this discomfort that forces you to learn, adapt, and evolve. The Stoics understood this well. For them, true growth did not occur when things were easy or under control, but in moments of challenge and adversity. Facing these moments requires courage to abandon the apparent stability of your comfort zone and throw yourself into the unknown. It is in this unknown space that you discover strengths you never knew you had. Stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't have to be a huge step. Small, everyday changes can make a big difference. Try something new, a conversation with someone different, a new approach to solving a problem, or even learning a skill you've always wanted to try, but never tried. Each of these actions is a step outside the comfortable bubble that's keeping you stuck. And remember, stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't mean abandoning everything you know or taking unnecessary risks. It's about opening yourself up to continuous learning, new experiences, and above all, growth. It's not about rejecting comfort itself, but about not allowing it to become an obstacle. So the next time you feel like you're stuck in neutral, ask yourself, what can I do today to move forward? It may be something simple, but every little step into the unknown will lead you to a richer, fuller, and more possible life. After all, your comfort zone may be a good place to rest, but it's not a place to live. Turn your mistakes into lessons. The comfort zone, that place where everything seems safe, predictable, and controlled. It's like a refuge where we shelter when the world outside seems chaotic. But have you ever stopped to think that this area, so cozy at first sight, could be your biggest enemy? The comfort zone isn't just a space to rest. It's an invisible prison that limits our growth and prevents us from reaching our true potential. Imagine yourself driving a car in neutral. The engine is running. You can hear the roar. You feel the comfort of being behind the wheel, but you're not going anywhere. This is the illusion of the comfort zone. The feeling that everything is fine, when in reality you're stuck. The longer you stay in this state, the harder it is to realize that you're stuck. And worse, you may even start to justify this inertia by telling yourself that things are fine as they are, or that it's not time to change. However, the reality is that nothing significant happens within this zone. The biggest breakthroughs, whether in your career, relationships, or personal growth, come when you venture beyond the familiar. Stepping outside your comfort zone is uncomfortable, sure. You'll face doubts, fears, and even failures. But it's precisely this discomfort that forces you to learn, adapt, and evolve. The Stoics understood this well. For them, true growth did not occur when things were easy or under control, but in moments of challenge and adversity. Facing these moments requires courage to abandon the apparent stability of your comfort zone and throw yourself into the unknown. It is in this unknown space that you discover strengths you never knew you had. Stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't have to be a huge step. Small everyday changes can make a big difference. Try something new, a conversation with someone different, a new approach to solving a problem, or even learning a skill you've always wanted to try but never tried. Each of these actions is a step outside the comfortable bubble that's keeping you stuck. And remember, stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't mean abandoning everything you know or taking unnecessary risks. It's about opening yourself up to continuous learning, new experiences, and above all, growth. It's not about rejecting comfort itself, but about not allowing it to become an obstacle. So the next time you feel like you're stuck in neutral, ask yourself, What can I do today to move forward? It may be something simple, but every little step into the unknown will lead you to a richer, fuller, and more possible life. After all, your comfort zone may be a good place to rest, but it's not a place to live. Facing fear and guilt. Fear and guilt. These two feelings can be described as emotional anchors that keep us in place. How many times have you found yourself paralyzed by the fear of failure or consumed by guilt over a past mistake? These are powerful emotions that have the power to stop us from moving forward. But what many people don't realize is that they are also tools. When properly understood, they can teach us how to better deal with life's challenges. Fear, for example, is a natural response of our body. It is there to protect us from real threats, as an evolutionary mechanism that has helped us survive. However, in the modern world, this fear often manifests itself in an exaggerated or irrational way. We are no longer running away from predators, but fear still makes us doubt our abilities, paralyzes us when faced with important decisions, and prevents us from trying something new. It whispers in our ear, "What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if it doesn't work out?" This fear is often not related to the present, but to the past. It is the memory of past failures that fuels insecurity. However, the Stoics teach us to look at fear differently. They believed that we cannot control external circumstances, but we do have complete control over how we react to them. Instead of letting fear dominate us, we can face it with courage and rationality. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Is it something that is within my control? If it is not, why should I worry? And if fear paralyzes us, guilt weighs us down. How many times have you found yourself in a cycle of self-judgment after making a mistake? You think, how could I do that again? Or, I don't deserve a second chance. Guilt, like fear, is a natural emotion. It serves to alert us that something needs to be fixed. But when we allow it to consume us, it becomes a burden that prevents us from moving forward. The Stoics emphasize the importance of acknowledging guilt, but also letting it go. According to them, there is no point in carrying around an emotional burden that does not contribute to learning or change. Instead, we should use guilt as a starting point for reflection. What can I learn from this? How can I act differently in the future? This approach not only relieves the emotional burden, but also transforms guilt into something productive. One powerful practice is what the Stoics called Stoic indifference. This doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing your emotions, but acknowledging them without allowing them to control your actions. When fear arises, notice it, but don't react impulsively. When guilt arises, accept it as part of the process, but don't allow yourself to get caught up in it. It's like learning to sail a boat in rough waters. You feel the waves, but you keep control of the rudder. Overcoming fear and guilt takes practice and patience. It's not an overnight process, but every little step makes a difference. When fear tries to paralyze you, remember that it's just a feeling. It doesn't define who you are. When guilt tries to hold you back, remember that your mistakes don't condemn you. They teach you. Ultimately, the power lies not in avoiding these emotions, but in learning to deal with them. Use fear as a wake-up call to better prepare yourself. Use guilt as a reminder that you are human and learning. As Epictetus said, it is not events that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them. Control those judgments and you will find a freedom that few people achieve. Redefine your narrative. The way you see yourself defines much more than you might think. It's as if you carry an internal narrative with you, a story that guides your actions and decisions. This narrative, however, is not always constructed consciously. It is often influenced by past experiences, limiting beliefs, and even things other people have said about you. And that's where the problem lies. If you keep telling yourself a story that says you're incapable, unlucky, or destined to fail, this narrative becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you said things like, "I always make the same mistakes. I'm not good enough for this," or "Things never work out for me"? These words may seem harmless, but they carry a lot of weight. They shape the way you see the world and the opportunities around you. When you believe that you are doomed to failure, you unconsciously seek to confirm that belief. It's like wearing sunglasses. You see the world through the same lens, even when the sun has set. The Stoics understood the power of the internal narrative and insisted on the importance of taking control of it. For them, what really matters is not what happens around you, but how you choose to interpret and react to it. If a mistake occurs, you can see it as the end of the world or as an opportunity to learn. The choice is yours, and that choice defines the course of your life. Rewriting your narrative doesn't mean ignoring your mistakes or living in a bubble of naive optimism. It's about changing how you interpret challenges and using them to your advantage. Imagine a pilot who encounters turbulence during a flight. He doesn't see it as a disaster, but rather as a warning to adjust course. Similarly, you can start to interpret life's setbacks as signals to change something. Whether it's your approach, your mindset, or even the path you're on. To begin this process, it is essential to identify the stories you have been telling yourself. Take a moment to reflect. What are the phrases or thoughts that frequently cross your mind? Do they motivate you or limit you? Once you identify these narratives, challenge them. For example, if you constantly think, "I can never do this right," ask yourself, is this really true? Or am I ignoring the times I've been successful? Another important step is to replace negative narratives with affirmative and constructive ones. Instead of saying, "I always make mistakes," try, "I'm learning to improve." Instead of, "That never works for me," say, "I'll try a different approach this time." It's not about fooling yourself. It's about creating a mental space where learning and growth are possible. Rewriting your narrative also takes practice. Don't expect to change completely overnight. Like any skill, it requires repetition and consistency. Start small, monitoring your thoughts, and adjusting your perspective whenever you notice negative patterns. Over time, this new way of thinking will become a habit, and your narrative will begin to reflect a more resilient and confident you. Finally, remember that you are the author of your story. And like any good author, you have the power to revise, rewrite, and adjust your plot whenever you feel it's necessary. No matter how many complicated chapters have been written, the ending is still in your hands. You can transform the narrative of victimhood and failure into one of learning, overcoming, and growth. As the Stoics would say, life is not what happens to you, but how you choose to react to what happens to you. Become the protagonist of your story and write an ending that lives up to your true potential. We have reached the end of this reflective journey, and if you are here, it is because something inside you seeks change, seeks evolution. This willingness to learn and grow is the first step towards any significant transformation in life. And that, in itself, is already a reason to celebrate. But before I end, I want to leave you with a powerful message. You are not defined by your mistakes or setbacks, but rather by what you decide to do about them. Each of us carries within us the potential to rewrite our own story. No matter how many times we stumble or how many opportunities we miss, there is always a chance to start over. The Stoics believed that true human power lies in our ability to respond to circumstances with wisdom and resilience. We do not control what happens around us, but we do have complete control over how we choose to react to it. So the next time you come across a stumbling block, instead of stumbling over it, stop, look at it, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I change my course to avoid falling again? This simple pause can be the turning point between repeating the same mistakes or taking control of your life. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Real, lasting change happens gradually, with small, consistent steps. Start by reflecting on your daily actions, identifying patterns that no longer serve you, and replacing them with conscious choices. Cultivate discipline, practice self-analysis, and most of all, be kind to yourself in the process. You don't have to be perfect. Just be willing to learn and improve. Finally, I want to invite you to continue on this journey of self-knowledge and transformation. If this content resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Tell us, what did you learn today? How do you plan to apply this in your life? Also, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos full of lessons that can change the way you see life. Leave a like if this video was helpful to you, and turn on notifications to make sure you're always up to date. Remember, Stoicism isn't just a philosophy. It's a practical tool for facing everyday challenges and living a fuller, more meaningful life. Thank you for being here and taking the time to learn. The transformation begins now, and I look forward to seeing how far you can go. Until the next video, may your journey be filled with courage, reflection, and growth.